All right, let's jump right into a major philosophical showdown between two absolute giants, Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. These guys were the masterminds behind utilitarianism, this game-changing idea for how to build a happier world. But as you're about to see, they had very, very different ideas about what that actually looked like. And this really gets us to the heart of the whole thing. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Of course, we should try to make the most people happy. But what happens when the majority's happiness means crushing the rights of a minority, or even just one person? This is the very conflict that sparked the intellectual battle between Bentham and Mill. Now, to really get why their ideas were so explosive, we have to rewind the clock. We're talking about late 18th century England, a place that was changing fast, but its political system was totally stuck in the Dark Ages. So picture this. England is becoming this industrial beast, right? Factories are popping up, a whole new middle class is gaining power and wealth. But the government, it's still acting like everyone lives on a farm. All the political power was basically held by a tiny little club of rich landowners. And I mean, just look at how broken the system was. The idea of fair representation was a joke. Most people couldn't vote. And then you had these things called rotten boroughs, which is just wild. These were ghost towns, sometimes with just one powerful guy living there who still got to send a representative to parliament. Meanwhile, huge, booming cities like Manchester had zero voice. It was completely upside down. So here's the thing. The old excuses for why things were the way they were just falling apart. Ideas like natural rights, life, liberty, and all that, sounded nice, but thinkers like Bentham started calling them out. He couldn't measure a right. He couldn't prove it existed. In fact, he famously called the whole idea nonsense on stilts. The world needed something new, something solid and rational to build a society on. And so, into this chaos steps our first guy, Jeremy Bentham. He shows up with an idea that was just shockingly simple and powerful. He wanted to toss out all the old, dusty traditions and build society on one single, provable rule. And there it is, utilitarianism. The idea is that for any law, any action, the only question that matters is this: does it create the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people? It's all about the results. If it leads to more pleasure and happiness, it's good. If it leads to more pain and suffering, it's bad. End of story. This quote gets right to the core of Bentham's thinking. For him, humans are simple. We are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. That's it. It's not a philosophy, he thought. It's a fact of nature. And if that's what drives us, then that should be the foundation for our entire moral and legal system. And to prove this was a science, not just an opinion, Bentham created this, the Hedonic Calculus. Seriously, think of it like a moral spreadsheet. He believed you could literally calculate the right thing to do. You'd go down the list, assign a score to the pleasure and pain for every person affected, and boom, the highest score wins. It was a wild attempt to turn ethics into math, basically the world's first cost-benefit analysis for doing the right thing. But there was a dark side to this happiness math. And the person who saw it most clearly was the one who was supposed to be its biggest fan, John Stuart Mill. Mill was practically raised in a Bentham-worshipping household. But as he grew up, he spotted a huge, dangerous flaw in his mentor's grand design. And this was Mill's great fear, the tyranny of the majority. Think about it. What happens if 51% of the people are made incredibly happy by oppressing the other 49%? Well, according to Bentham's simple math, that could be the right thing to do. Mill realized that without some kind of protection, the will of the majority could be just as brutal as any king or dictator. This chart just nails the difference between them. For Bentham, it was all about quantity. A simple kid's game that brought a lot of joy was, to him, just as good as a profound piece of poetry if the amount of pleasure was the same. Mill said, no way. He argued that there are higher pleasures, like learning, creating art, debating ideas, and lower pleasures. For Mill, the goal wasn't just more happiness. It was a better kind of happiness, one that let people grow and flourish as individuals. And this is probably Mill's most famous line, and man, it hits hard. He's saying a life of simple, easy pleasure, being a happy pig, isn't the best we can do. The struggle, the deep thinking, the questioning of a Socrates, even if it brings frustration, is a far more valuable way to be human. It's quality over quantity, every time. So how do you stop the majority from becoming tyrants? Mill's answer was beautiful and powerful.
the harm principle. Basically, it creates a protective firewall around every single person. The government, society, your neighbors, they can only interfere with your freedom if you are directly harming someone else. Trying to save you from yourself or make you do something for your own good, not a good enough reason. And that idea right there is the foundation of modern liberty.
So why are we still talking about this debate from 200 years ago? Because these were not just ideas in a book. They had a huge, real-world impact that totally reshaped our society. I mean, just look at this list. The utilitarian push for the greatest happiness wasn't just talk. It was a political weapon. It fueled the fight to give new cities a voice in government, to abolish the horror of slavery, to clean up cities, and to get cheaper food for working people. They used this principle to systematically tear down an old, corrupt system. But Mill leaves us with this final, crucial warning. A government that focuses so much on control and the collective good that it crushes the individual, that it dwarfs its men, ends up defeating itself. Because as he says, you can't achieve great things with small-minded, suppressed people. Progress and creativity come from individual freedom. And that brings us right back to where we started. This is not a dead, historical argument. We are living this debate every single day. When we argue about free speech online, public health rules, economic policy, we are still trying to figure out where to draw that line. The individual versus the group, liberty versus safety. Bentham and Mill didn't solve it for us,